Welcome to the Techne Connect Automotive Podcast, aimed at inspiring the next generation of EE-related talent to choose a career within our space, whilst also supporting the current EE talent pool in making key career decisions. In each episode, we interview industry leaders to discuss their unique career paths, advice for those starting out in the automotive industry, as well as important issues currently impacting the sector. My name is Ferris, and I'm responsible for connecting automotive businesses to the best EE-related talent. Today we have Ronnie Aquino from Aptiv. Ronnie's career so far has been impressive. He graduated in the Philippines with a degree in electronics engineering after successfully identifying what skills will be relevant to society in the future. He has since worked at Lear and Aptiv, where he has travelled across the globe and collaborated with teams from many diverse countries and cultures. In this episode, we'll explore his valuable insights into a successful career, as well as his advice for those looking to progress within the automotive industry. Hi, Ronnie. First of all, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, Ferris. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm fine. How about you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. So let's start with some introductions. Do you want to introduce yourself, Ronnie, please?
So my name is Ronnie Aquino. I've been in the systems engineering profession for around 19 years now. I started as a systems engineer cadet and then became a systems engineering team leader and systems engineering supervisor in my old company, Lear Corporation. And then starting on 2022, I joined Aptiv as a global core engineering systems engineer responsible for German OEMs.
Fantastic. Absolutely. You've got a really interesting career that I'm looking forward to sharing with people. But before we jump into that, Ronnie, who's Ronnie outside of work? What do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
Yeah, so that's really interesting question. So I'm a family man. Outside from work, I'm happy to be with my family. I have two children, two daughters. One is 11 and the other one is 6 years old. So I enjoy a lot being a family man. And together with the family, traveling and so on, that makes me a person who I am outside from my profession.
Yeah, no problem at all. If I remember rightly, you're quite into your sports, aren't you? A bit of basketball, a bit of biking as well.
Yes, exactly. It was my favorite sports. Yeah, I'm transitioning from the past 10 years here in Europe for, and one of the thing that or sports that's really interested me is the football, but it's not totally the same as what I have in my country where I came from in the Philippines, where we are really enthusiastic about basketball. That's
Yeah,
what really my sports. I really love it.
yeah, no, interested. So we'll start into, we'll go through your career together. What was interesting, so your university, your studies was actually initially in the Philippines. You want to talk through how that started?
Yeah, well, it started. It's really interesting because it started with my critical thinking about the future. I really interested to be a civil engineer. That was my first how you call it this one ambition to be a civil engineer, to do contracting, constructing about buildings, and everything changed after my graduation in my middle school or in high school we called it. I tend to look into the future that something will evolve, and that will be technology, electronics, digitalization, everything change in the future. So I have think after my graduation, I had think that I would take up electronics engineering because I'm interested exactly about electronics and how things works and what would be the application in the future and what would I be positioned in the future for the next 15 to 20 years. So I decided to take up electronics engineering in the
Brilliant.
university. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And after the university and obviously graduating, you were invited to apply to Lear, wasn't it, in the first instance?
Yeah, that was the time that I was interested by a friend. There was somebody who said, "Okay, just bring your application and your resume." And on that time, after graduating from my university, it's a Cebu Institute of Technology University. It was one of the premium university of engineering in the Philippines. And after that, I take up my state board examination where I passed. And after that, I would wanted to call it a day, shall we say? Yeah, I wanted to rest. And then one of my friend invited me. Oh, let's go apply for this position and stuff like that, and let's try. And then I applied for Lear Corporation as a cadet engineer for systems engineering, and that started my career.
Absolutely, and something we've discussed behind the scenes, which is really interesting. I think systems engineering now within automotive is ultimately the norm. You know, the complexity of the systems alone requires an in-depth V model, the way it all links to functional safety, the way it links into cybersecurity. But with your career, you were really, really early into systems engineering, like starting systems engineering in 2004. That was the early phases, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. I was really fortunate to land into that cadetship program in one of the company, and I was really happy that my course of university is really in that application. Systems engineering is a very broad project or subject, we can say. It's a very broad discipline. You can have it in any other job that you can have in the industry. You can have it in the IT infrastructure. You can have it in the mechanical engineering. You can have it with people. Yeah, program management is also one way of systems engineering. But I landed with this uh, shall we say, work or profession that is aligned to my course in the university, which is electrical and electronics engineering, which I handled different type of modules that is used or that are used in the automotive, and that's I really I would say fortunate to be in this profession. I'm really happy with it, and it grows me into a professional, and not only by that, but as a person, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, you had a really good stint at Lear, didn't you? And there was lots of travelling involved, lots of projects involved. Do you want to give us a breakdown of how that transpired? So you initially started in the Philippines, and then how did that continue to grow?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I never expect to be in this situation or in this professional career that I will be outside in my country. Well, it started with my cadetship program when I was introduced with a lot of informations into automotive industry, coming into in a place where I was growing up. I'm not involved with automotive. Yeah, I have my car when I was 27 years old. I know nothing about cars. And what interested me is that the technology in the car that comes in, it's interests me what have been in that sector: electrical architecture, electronics engineering, the applications in the communication system that interested me. So at 2004 I was part of the cadetship program, and then for 3 years study, learning, and going into the different type of activities. First of my responsibilities being in the benchmarking team, and then after that I was assigned to an advanced engineering team, wherein it's very interesting job, I would say, but my job is on the EDS side, wherein I have to calculate and need to ensure my studies in the EDS, where we can come up with proposals, VAVE, value analysis, value engineering, where we have to integrate different types of modules into the car and come up with a savings into our study for EDS. So I mainly focus on the EDS side, but we have a counteraction with the electronics engineering side. And after that, it grows to different jobs wherein I was assigned to different countries, working together with different OEMs and different brains, I would say brilliant minds in the industry. I was really happy and fortunate because I'm able to build my career out of my experience with different people, different understanding, and different mastery and skill sets.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point and something we can elaborate on further. But that, as you go through and work with different cultures as such, different countries, you pick up lots of different techniques, don't you?
Exactly. And that's really I would say, a breakthrough from my side, because it's not only about your culture, but when you are assigned with different countries, you're able to understand exactly what they are, and you cannot just project them in the movie. When you will be integrated with them, they will have different aspects in how they project with themselves, with other people, and that you can understand, and that's simply the beauty of culture. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're now obviously working at Active, like we introduced at the podcast. And what I want to jump into is now looking back in your career, so far, what's been your flagship moments from your perspective?
I have 2 points, I would say, highlights in my career that I would consider it as a key achievement. One of it, I have my first vehicle when I was involved in one major project in our company, wherein our car developed was really featured in the movie Transformer. Yeah, this is the Chevrolet Sparks. It was really interesting. I never imagined that when I was really happy. It's not really about, when you are in the university, you studied, you completed, you feel you passed everything without failure. For me, that's not an achievement. I would say that's only a fun. Yeah, but when you are in the real world, when you saw or when you see in front of you your baby that you have designed, analyzed, and engineered, it was really fulfilling. And one project for that from my side is the Chevrolet Spark, where I was involved in South Korea. I was assigned there for more than 2 years when we developed this project. I was the systems engineering responsible, delivering the schematics, the project's design to the drawings and schematics. I'm responsible to do that, and we were able to deliver this project smoothly without issues, without errors. And I'm really proud of that as my first career stepping stone. And after that, that was my stepping stone to come to Europe, because one of my project I was involved with is also coming from that platform. So I was involved to be part of the projects we have here in Germany. And it's really fortunate because after I landed the job in Germany for 2011, it progressed me to who I am today, with different projects, different companies, or different OEMs I work with. And the second highlights that I am very happy is when I was the systems engineering supervisor for the EMG SL for MY22. Was really classical car, a very attractive car. I wish I'm that rich to buy this car. Very, very fascinating. Yeah, it is the SL. Yeah, AMG SL and the GT as well. It was launched in 2022. I was really happy for that car, and we built it from scratch. I was involved in that one in 2014 for the pre-development, working with the people with the smartest mind, I would say, in the industry. I was really fortunate to work with them, and from there we started the development in 2017 as a serial development, and from that with it progressed to what it has now. And I see the car in the road, and I was really happy, and my wife was very happy on that one when I was walking along the way of the shopping center in Germany, that was in Mitzingen, somewhere in the south in Baden-Württemberg. There was an aquarium, shall we say, and that EMG was there. I was walking, and then my wife said, "Hey, is that your car developed?" And I was said, "You're not wrong. You're correct. Yeah." So he took me a photo of it, and then he was very happy. He sent this to my family and so on, and I was really happy to see that car. A very magnificent car, I would say, very lovely car, and it's really high intense with lot of features, advanced features and technology, and also electrified. And I was really happy for that. That is the highlight of my professional career, for my profession, for the project. And the last one I would say is about people. When I was a technical guy more on the project, um, I'm lucky also that I met my mentor here in Europe, and he told me that, hey, you need to grow, you need to transition something else, and you need to mentor. And on that time I was really, hesitate, if that's the right word, because when I was a systems team leader, I feel that my team is making me slow, and I am that type of person who keep moving, and ahead of the time of delivery. You know what I mean? And then it progressed me to be a mentor and a team leader, or whatever it is. So I mentored people. So when I became a team leader, it progressed to, after a couple of 4 or 5 years, it progressed me to be a system supervisor with a lot of people in it. And I involved to more mentoring. And I was really happy because I connect to the people in the industry, and I was also one of the fortunate guy to have those kind of people. I mentor them, and they grow also in their profession. And what motivates me and make me feel happy is that when they go back to you and say, "Hey, Ronnie, thank you very much to what you have done to me for all those mentoring. I'm really appreciate that you give your trust to empower for the project and correct me if I'm wrong. And before I get wrong, you provide me some inputs." And that is really fulfilling, when you
Yeah.
connect to these people and see them, they are successful as well. That is for me most fulfilling as well.
And that's what it's about, isn't it? Just the summary of your achievements. You get to see your products You actually get to see what you produce, and the general public have a perception of what's produced as well, which is quite rewarding. And you then ultimately you're working together. It's a collaborative industry, isn't it? And it's about how you mentor people and how you all work together to deliver that project. And it's very fulfilling on all accounts.
Yes, exactly. Because I've been to different countries. I've been to Japan to do work with different OEM. I've been with Japan. I've been with South Korea and Seoul. I've been to the UK for the Jaguar Land Rover. I've been to Sweden for Volvo, and I've been to India. I've been traveling a lot, and one thing that I can really appreciate about my job is that when we connect people, and if you have a really good connection with people, and then you find and you will be find from them like you're a mentor, it's really fulfilling, and then for the places that I have been with and working with, and I can say I was really happy because I'm able to connect people, and some sort of degree that I'm able to mentor some of them, and some of them collaborate them into a successful project, and that is really a really good point that I could say I can highlight in my career. I'm really happy for that.
Absolutely. And based on your experience now, if you could go back to Ronnie at 16 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Well, that's really interesting. I would say if you really have a good mentor, early in your career and also in your perspective, mentorship is really important, and having this kind of opportunity to get a good mentor and able to guide you with the complexities of the job, that would be really interesting, and really a, I would say, fulfilling.
Fantastic. Something that me and you've discussed behind the scenes. I thought, what a great methodology. You talked about growing teams. You talked about when you come to work to deliver rather not stressful projects, but demanding projects, let's say. And you try and replicate what you're trying to produce at home, like a healthy home, and you try and bring that into the workplace where it's creating a healthy workplace. Do you want to talk on that point a bit further?
Yes, really good. Yeah, I mean, that's also one of the, sometimes point where we need to balance, in our working career, because our job is really demanding. It's about time, and if it's about time, you need to focus it. You need to know how to budget your time, or time management. That's one of the important things that you need to consider, because being in the automotive industry, it's a hell of very demanding job. You need to deliver some point of time. You need to be focused on your delivery, and one point that you cannot ignore is also your family side, which needs to be balanced out. And this is for me a sort of a good training when I was still involved with different project. On the time I was single, I don't have a family. It's like, for me it's like fun, because I can go anywhere. I can do my job without thinking with other people like children or your wife. But when it comes to the point that you will have a family, you need to strategize yourself, and it's very difficult, I would say, especially when you are in a project, when you take the lead. Yeah, it's not only about being a team member, but when you are a leader on a specific project, you need to strategize yourself so that the other the other part of your side, which is your family, will not be affected. And from that, I'm really happy, because I have also a mentor here in Europe, which is really good in doing that, and it makes me a person what I am right now, balancing the work and also with your family, and it's really a good experience. But for me, always first your family. That's always the point in my thema, I would say, that I would wanted to discuss with you. It's really important.
Absolutely, and we've talked through how you then replicate that healthy feeling and then bring it into the workplace as well, which then produces better morale, better results, etc.
Exactly. One thing I can add to that is that when you have a healthy family and or a healthy connection with your, shall we say, other people, it's really fulfilling, and it will add you energy and boost, or morale, shall we say, boost to your morale when you go to your workplace, and that makes you a bit more confident, and at the same time able to be more quick, and really easy to connect to people. When you have a really good, healthy family or love, connections, this can be replicated into your workplace. No, I'm not saying that people who have, disaster family or other connections outside profession can be replicated into the workplace, because there are also people who are really good in doing that. But at the end of the day, it's up to you how you manage it and able to control your time and your emotions and replicate this into the workplace, whether it's good. And I don't want to commend the bad as a replication also to your job. That is something that you can bring up to as well.
Absolutely. So, Ronnie, your background, you've got a very successful background within EDS systems as a whole, covering the full systems engineering lifecycle. Obviously, growing into mentoring teams, looking at ultimately global teams as well. But if we look at the automotive industry over the next 5-10 years, is there any specific areas, technical trends that you'd recommend engineers to focus on?
Mm. Actually, that's really interesting subject, because you know everybody right now thinking about, or maybe not all, is thinking about in the automotive industry as a big business. It's a multi-billion dollar, euro business, pound business, which is really attractive. So to me, it's not only about what could you position into the industry, but I would recommend, if somebody is thinking about it as a perspective for a career, will take up electrical or electronics engineering. Now, I'm not saying that mechanical or other discipline is bad, but the the topic itself about electrical engineering, electronic architecture, or whatever it is that you can apply into the electrical domain of the vehicle is really interesting, because in the 5 to 10 years from now, I mean, right now we are already electrifying vehicles. We have the VEV, battery electric vehicle. We have the hybrids, electrical architecture. Those are vehicle electrical architecture power supply variants.
On the topic of electrification, I think that the need and the change within power electronics, power architecture is what we're expecting, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Electrical architecture is really interesting in the sense of implementing into the vehicle, and also the power electronics, which keeps evolving. And this is really important for electrification and application to the vehicle in the future.
And there's other things, isn't there, coming up where obviously we look at traditional architectures from an EDS perspective. Now, it's not fully defined this, but if we look at future software defined vehicles and how the architectures may change, there could be a big shift, couldn't they, in terms of the overall architecture?
The 12-volt systems that we have right now will become obsolete, as we have to say it. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that is the stepping stone why we have right now different type of architecture to software driven vehicles, different architecture type, reducing modules and computers and clouding system. This will be the future of the automotive, which is right now really, how you call this one, you are it's very demanding. Yeah, for the cars in the future will be much more software driven, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if we look at the industry as a whole piece, what do you see that's up and coming in the industry? What do you see that's potentially impacting the sector?
That will be very interesting, because as the globalization, or shall we say, as the transition between 12 volts to high voltage, or shall we say the conventional becomes electrified, it becomes a trend. I did not believe from the past, 10 to 15 years ago. I was also asked for an opinion about battery electric vehicle. I did not think of it positively, that it will be a trend that will be successful. But nowadays, when I drive everywhere in Europe, I've been to the UK driving from Germany. I've been to Scandinavia, to Norway, Denmark, Finland by car. I've seen different types of car which is electrified or battery electric vehicle, and it's really, um, how you call this one, it is very interesting that it evolves and it becomes a trend. So I've seen it as a really positive in the future, that it will be more like, we will be millions driving cars in the world for automate electric vehicles. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned fuel cell vehicles previously. The adoption of that technology could still happen.
Possibly, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there are already some OEMs in Europe who are looking with that one. And I believe this is really a good trend, because if you look into the efficiency of the vehicles, they can have up to 60% more for the FCEV compared to the efficiency from the internal combustion engines, which is up to 30%. And it's up to that in the fuel cell, you have only as a hydrogen as an input and an oxygen as an input, and powered, combine this one into a fuel cell stack or a power plant, we will have a byproduct of water, so reducing and pollution, reduce greenhouse effect of hydrogen from 50%, and also for the wind, which is up to 90%. So that is for me a really important aspect in the electrification of this technology as well. And in fact, it was the only, for me, an alternative which is not really harmful, I would say, with the environment concerning the battery electric vehicle stuff. I mean, I cannot say anything about that, but for me, fuel cell vehicle will be very promising in the future. The only thing right now is that it's not yet really marketable as of the moment because of some, studies on. But I think it is also a possibility that this will be a market trend in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, the final question at the end of the podcast is ultimately from your perspective. Why develop a career within the automotive industry?
That's really a good question, sorry, because automotive industry, as I mentioned from the very beginning, is a multi-billion dollar business, and it's a really an industry with which I would say very sustainable. People are buying cars than houses. These are really very interesting. So aside from the fun that you can have in your work developing, I would say, high-end toys. I will say this are high-end toys, but you know the contribution we have in the humanities in it. Cars is part of mobility, and this mobility is has been there since ages. And if we look into the contribution that you can have in joining the automotive industry, is for me some sort very fulfilling as a contribution to humanity. And this is really a fulfilling career, I would say, compared to others. I mean, there are also careers which are really fulfilling, but automotive for me is really sustainable.
And it's continually evolving, isn't it? You think you reach the peak of the development, and then there's a new trend, and then there's something else coming. There's like continuous improvement on all accounts.
Exactly. The, I mean, our job is always continue develop. Without it, we will stuck by ages with other, mentality. But our job is focusing on the developments. That's why we are engineers, and I can say that the automotive will be a some sort of industry where you can apply your knowledge and also your passion, and this is keeping developing, and to be part of it is really rewarding.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ronnie, thank you very much for joining us, sharing us your career, sharing us some really interesting insights about the industry as well. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much, Ferris. I'm really thankful for being a part of this program, and I really happy to be sharing my understanding and my experience about automotive. And thank you very much for the time.
No problem. Thank you very much, Ronnie.